Hi, peeps. I'm done with the episode of Genesis Apologetics that I was doing, so I'm going to move on from Biddle and do Eric Hovind, who runs Creation Today. In case you don't know, he's the son of Kent Hovind. Yes, that Kent Hovind, the one who swears he isn't a fraud, but spent 10 to 15 years in prison because he defrauded the IRS, and then he went back to jail for beating his wife. Yeah, charming, huh? Anyway, I'm going to take it a bit easier on Eric because, really, this guy never really had a chance, although he should have learned by now. But, yeah, he went to Pensacola Christian Academy for his entire life. Other than that, he has no other credentials, if you can call that a credential. Anyway, he did try going to Jackson Hole Bible College, which isn't even a real college, but that's neither here nor there, and he couldn't even do that. So I don't want to air the Hovind dirty laundry, but it ties into who he is. When Kent went to prison to serve out his sentence for dodging the IRS, he put his creationism ministry in Eric's name, and Eric never gave it back. Well, you know what, Kent? Karma's a bitch, ain't she? Maybe if he'd been nicer to the kid, he would have given you back your ministry, but you beat the living daylights out of that kid when he was younger. What did you think was going to happen, you loser? And while you're thinking about it, if you're new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? And if you've already subscribed to me, make sure you're still subscribed because for some reason YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, if you're new here, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me a chance. And for my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. You are the lifeblood of this channel. And now, with that, let's get on with the video.
Us. Why do we doubt? God told us there was a flood. He told us there was a global flood. If it wasn't a global flood, why would you bring the birds?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the birds just fly away? Why didn't Noah just leave with his family in the decades they had to build the ark? He could have just left and gone somewhere else. If it was just the Middle East, why would you do the things they had to do and prepare?
It's really hard to believe everything you read.
God tells you there was a flood? No. Somebody told you that God told them that there was a flood. And it's in a book called the Bible. And the Quran says that Gabriel appeared to Muhammad. Now, why are you willing to take the Bible's word for something that we know never happened because of science over the Quran's word, which we really can't say whether it happened or not? No good reason that I can find, except that, of course, this is your preferred fairy tale, and you want your preferred fairy tale to be true. And you don't really care what's true. By the way, I don't believe the Quran is true any more than I believe that the Bible is true. However, this question always bugs me. Why are Christians so willing to give the Bible the benefit of the doubt and not the Quran? But let's just put all of that aside. The Bible, the Quran, everything, okay? Why do you believe what you believe? Is it because you've looked at it and you actually believe this shit? Or have you looked at it and you believe it because mommy and daddy told you to believe it and you've been so programmed into thinking this that you really can't get out of the programming? Well, I assure you that you can. If I can break the programming, anybody can.
Actually, we
It's
see
not
mixing of
just
land and marine.
here's land, here's marine.
No, it's mixing in the same layers. We see 6 species of sharks in the same rock layer with the T-Rexes in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana.
Wow.
And it was 5 and they found a 6th one recently. But they have to argue these are all freshwater fish or freshwater sharks. And
Gee, are you surprised?
Eric, you really need to find some, better pieces of fact to be surprised by than this, because this is not a surprise to anybody who knows their stuff. Uh, really, come on. And Tim, you're a geologist for fuck's sake, so you don't get a pass. I'm willing to give a pass to little Eric boy because his dad beat the shit out of him every time he got a chance to, and that pretty much scared the boy to death. So the address above my head is the address to the Berkeley website, and it will show you a map of Hell Creek today, which has lakes. So why are we surprised to find fish there? And if you look at the map, this is a map of the interior seaway that was around 65 million years ago, and it was saltwater. So why are you surprised to find saltwater fish there when saltwater fish live in salt water? That's like being surprised polar bears live in the Arctic right fucking now, because that's where polar bears live. The people, please get up with the times, please. We have to argue that the only thing we can find in Hell's Creek fish-wise is freshwater fish. That's interesting, Timmy boy, considering that the inland sea goes right up through parts of Montana. And now for your most outlandish claim in this segment, that T-Rexes are found with sharks in the same rock layer. Maybe. And the only reason I say maybe is because sea levels rise and fall. It's a fact of life. Live with it. As for being found in the same quote unquote rock layer, like I said, maybe, but I find it more likely than not that you people, as in young earthers, just decide how many feet make up a layer.
I was
that's just
wondering
the
about
level
that.
of the flood. They're not periods. There's no periods of time other than the flood, which was about a year.
And the flood is what created all of what we now refer to as Jurassic
Right.
Cretaceous.
Those are
and things
just
like that.
different. Those are kind of it's almost like a relative level we have to use to kind of we
Okay.
use the terms, but we call them systems, not periods, because we don't want people to get the idea there's a period.
Hey, Mitch, you better be joking.
So let me get this straight. You're borrowing secular terms, Jurassic, Cretaceous, Triassic, But instead of calling them periods, which they are, you're calling them systems. Just because you say a different name doesn't mean they are. And of course, there's a lot more than that that's wrong with your scenario. For instance, if it was a worldwide flood, there shouldn't be any quote unquote systems at all. It should all be one layer, which it's not. I'll give you a for instance because, well, you're too dumb to figure this out on your own, apparently. Okay, so we've got shale stone in one period, right? And then we've got granite in another. And that dumb jar experiment that Kent Hovind always brags about? Yeah, he's obviously never done it because it does not work the way he says it works, okay? All right. So, yeah. Try again. And as if you needed any more obstacles to your dumb little hypothesis, okay? Tell me something. Why don't we ever find all the animals jumbled together? We find them in layers. Now, obviously, I'm going to spell this out for you because I got to take your little hand and lead you through it step by step because you obviously can't figure this out for yourself. Okay, so we've got trilobites and we've got bunnies. Now, if, according to you, there was a worldwide flood, which, by the way, is impossible, okay, then we should see trilobites mixed in with bunnies, mixed in with dinosaurs, mixed in with elephants and all that. But we don't see that. We see things that are more complex as things go along and separated by time periods. You've also got the problem of 5 major massive extinctions. Your quote unquote model can't account for that because according to your dumb quote unquote model, there should only be one mass extinction. And this is just the stuff that comes to mind, like right off the top of my head. I'm sure that, if I really wanted to dig into this, I could find a whole lot more wrong with your flood model hypothesis, which is ridiculous.
The same environments are being deposited and being buried at the same time.
So in a sense, you're doing the same thing. You're looking at the fossils, you're looking at where things end, and you're going, you're not necessarily, I mean, I know you're starting with a biblical worldview,
right?
But you're not necessarily saying, how do I fit this data into the Bible? You're just saying, let me look at the data,
right?
And it happens to fit.
I love it when you people admit to your biases without realizing that you just fucking admitted to your biases. Well, I don't start out with any worldview. I start out with a blank slate, except I start out with a biblical worldview, and then that makes the evidence back up that worldview, whether the evidence really does back it up or not. Which, by the way, the evidence does not back up the quote unquote biblical worldview, because all you have to do is look 2 seconds at the evidence and you will find the Bible false. But let's step back for a minute and analyze that statement, shall we? You will find the Bible to be false. Except, not really. The Bible was not meant to be a history book. It was not meant to be a science book. It was meant to be a theology book. And just so happens that the theology of the Bible is set against an historic background that we can disprove without a shadow of a doubt. But again, it's not supposed to be read as a history or science book. And the fact that you people take the Bible literally belies the fact that you really don't understand anything about that book, even though you say you do. Because the Bible is so much more than literal history, which it's not. And I'll go ahead and insert right here that yes, I know some history in the Bible actually did happen, but so much more is pseudo history. And like I said, it's not meant to be a history book. The Bible is a setting, a backdrop in which a story unfolds. The parallel that I often use for this is that Atlanta, Georgia, USA is a real place. The U.S. Civil War really did happen. But does that mean that Scarlett O'Hara was a real person and Rhett was real? And for my non-American friends out there, because I realize that not everybody gets that reference, it is a reference to Gone with the Wind, which was set in Atlanta in the Civil War. Well, folks, I hope you're impressed as much as I am about this so far rock solid evidence for the flood, which, by the way, is no evidence at all for the flood, and about this, different continents shit. We'll get into that later. For right now, let's suffice it to say that there is no evidence for a worldwide flood because it never happened. And to say that you would be surprised that there's evidence all around the world for local floods is just disingenuous. Because, as you probably know, I hope you know, local floods happen all the goddamn time, even in places where there is no river anymore because there are dry riverbeds around those places. So far, the only evidence that Eric Hovind and Dr. Who the Fuck Ever has is disinformation and disingenuity. I mean, really, if you have to be this dishonest to sell your life, maybe you shouldn't do it. And I really do hope that this allows someone to take the blinders off, to give themselves permission to wonder about whether the Bible really is true in all its declarations, because the Bible was not meant to be a science book. It was not meant to be a history book. It was meant to be a theology book. And just because it has some things that really happened doesn't mean everything happened.